The saxophonist must adopt a new embouchure to execute this technique, closely resembling that used for the flute and the ney. Begin by puckering the lips as if pronouncing the word poo. Position the saxophone neck between the lips, directing a focused stream of air over the hole in the neckpiece. Adjust the angle of the saxophone neck as needed to achieve the desired sound. The transposition of Saxo-Flute Hybridity closely follows the D-tune scale defined in the air pitch technique. However, determining a comprehensive transposition is impossible due to the absence of a mouthpiece. As of today, the range of Saxo-Flute Hybridity remains highly limited due in large part to the lack of development and training on the part of the saxophonist, and to the conical shape of the tube, which is not designed to produce these sounds in this way. The functional range, which every saxophonist should familiarize themselves with as a basis, spans from C5 to F-sharp 5, or G5 on soprano, utilizing the palm keys from D5 upwards. However, this range may be extended further depending on the performer's comfort and skill level with the technique and embouchure manipulation. Yet, as the performer explores the lower tessitura of the technique, the more difficult it becomes to produce audible pitches. For more advanced players, the range can be extended by over or underblowing the bass octave, much in the same way that a flutist will overblow to the octave. On soprano, the technique can be extended from F-sharp 4 to G5. On alto, 2 octaves are possible. The lower octave ranges from B-flat 4 to F-sharp 5, while the middle octave ranges from D-sharp 4 to F-sharp 5. On tenor, similarly, 2 octaves are possible. The middle octave ranges from E4 to F-sharp 5, while the higher octave ranges from G4 to F-sharp 5. On baritone, there are 4 different octaves that the player can execute. In the low octave, the range is B4 to F-sharp 5. In the middle octave, the range is C5 to F-sharp 5. In the high octave, the range is C5 to F-sharp 5. Additionally, by overblowing into this higher octave, the player can attain a limited altissimo range of D5 to E-flat 5. To hear the full range on each of the 4 main saxophones, click on the chromatic scale video in the section entitled Demonstration Videos. Saxo-flute hybridity is a rather new phenomenon in the technical parameters of saxophone playing. For this reason, not many saxophonists have either heard them or seen them in written music. Despite this, several contemporary artists have taken these techniques to heart. Apart from myself, there are several artists, among them including Philippe Gais and Ola Astel Rocones, who have made these techniques an integral part of their artistic practice. My first introduction to Saxo-Flute Hybridity was hearing Geis perform live. Geis is a staunch advocate for these techniques, especially on sopranino saxophone. He often performs as a soloist with his own music, performing with large ensembles at saxophone-related events. It was from his performance that I started to grow curious about this technique. Here is an excerpt from one of those concerts featuring Geis as soloist. In this work, Caldero Saxo, the saxophonist is asked to improvise on written out chord progressions in a legato style. In doing so, Geis weaves a dreamy sound world to the opening of his rhythmically charged work for 12 saxophones and saxophone soloist. Interestingly, many of the supporting musicians are asked to play saxophone without mouthpiece techniques as well. Another deeply devoted saxophonist to these techniques is Ola Astel Rocones. He has developed these techniques in private for several years, sharing his love of the techniques to Scandinavian audiences and performing his own works or those of Scandinavian composers. Memorable in his works in the mixed ensemble Zwei-Mann Orchester, or the two musicians playing various instruments at once, where many techniques are used to create a rich tapestry of sound. Notable is the use of Saxo-Flute Hybridity in the work Scener fra et Nabolag, composed by Lars Skoglund. Here the tenor saxophone, played by Rocones, is used to create flute sounds in between trumpet sounds from the other musician on the baritone saxophone. Despite the novelty of the Saxo-Flute Hybridity technique, Kinsey is the only author to mention it briefly in his Sexology. He classifies its sounds as possessing the qualities of the flute and that of the ney. Kinsey names the sound the sax-ney technique, alluding to the Middle Eastern practice of ney performance. This analogy comes from the position of the lips to the open vocal used to create the characteristic sounds, much in the same way that the ney is typically performed. Not without its misconceptions, however, Kinsey falsely claims that the technique is only possible on the higher saxophones. Pitches are only given for the sopranino, soprano, and alto saxophones. Here, the ranges for the soprano and alto saxophones are inconsistent with the current possibilities on these instruments. Moreover, the outline transposition and pitches that are detailed are inconsistent with my own findings on the same saxophones. Below, in the video demonstration section, you'll find example videos of me performing this technique on all 4 standard saxophones.